And I want to say thank you so much for writing this awesome article called Dare to Serve.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you for having me write it.
Oh, anytime. So what was your inspiration for writing this article? Why did you choose to write an article on leadership, and not just leadership, but servant leadership?
I think like as my career started happening, I realized that I worked with quite a few leaders and I didn't really know what I was. Like I wasn't dominant and I wasn't submissive. I was kind of in the middle. So I kind of just wanted to really figure out what that was. So I did some research. Actually, I did it for my one of my MBA classes, and that kind of like started my thought process and realized that that's really who I am. I'm a servant leader. And I think when you hear that word, you think of someone being like not as powerful as a dominating leader. But I think we're just different. And I still consider myself a leader, just a different kind of leader.
So talk to us, like, did you always consider yourself a servant leader? Like, how did you get your start in food service, first of all? And walk us through that, and then how being a servant leader, or when you learned how to be a servant leader, helped you, progress through the ranks.
Good question. I actually started in 2004 in Manatee County as the dietitian. I worked under Sandy Ford, who was the former SNA president. Great mentor.
Like SNA royalty. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. She's fantastic. I still keep in touch with her. So I started off there, and basically my first day I was given a book and a desk, and then I just was like, okay, what do I do? So that started my career in food service. And from then on, it's been 17 years later, and I'm still here, just in different roles throughout my career. But I guess just working with different leaders and being involved with SNA and FSNA, I realized there's just not a one size fits all when it comes to a leader. So I think, again, just more self-reflection as to who I was and who I am. I realized that I am definitely more on the servant side. I'm very empathetic. Even in my role in my last position, I was the assistant director for Pasco County Schools. I just dealt with discipline and dealt with people a little bit differently than I've seen in the past. And again, I just kind of wanted to define what that was. And that's where I came across the word servant leadership.
It's interesting you mentioned Pasco County. So you and I share a servant leader at Pasco County. So we like to work together at Pasco, Amanda. I'm not sure if I told you that or not. Mm-hmm. And Julie Hadeen, actually, she was our old director. She really taught me what it meant to be a servant leader, not to say you're a servant leader. I remember that there was a situation came up, and there's a particular employee that I didn't like too much on my team. Sue probably knows who he is. and he made an oopsie, right? And I approached the situation the wrong way. And Julie really taught me, like as a servant leader, this is how you should handle this. Like, it's about helping this person, guiding them, not just trying to like reprimand them or, get them out.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a way of being a servant leader and still getting them out. It's just you handle a little bit differently. So
a lot differently. Yeah. And you're right. In the article you mentioned, servant leader sounded like an oxymoron, and it really is. I mean, the old school mentality. I'm sure a lot of people that were leaders didn't want to or consider themselves servants, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's almost like the difference between learning right now in a classroom, it being teacher centric in the past, and now it being student centric, so it's that shift in mindset. And what I love in your article, Sue, is when you're talking about going into the dish room and doing dishes,
Mm-hmm.
I almost think it's about leading intentionally and seeing where am I needed versus what do I need to do? Because there are times when we are needed in the dish room, or when we need to serve literally our students instead of just leading the service team, right?
Agreed. 100% agreed. Yes. Yeah. And I think working in the dish pit, or whatever role I was in, I mean, I would go in and some people didn't know me, and I was the assistant directors, you know, and I would just work alongside them and just be one of the people, you know. And I think I gained a little bit more respect that way because I was willing to wrap burgers and do the dishes and whatever needed to happen. So I think there's a different approach than just going in and like, I'm the leader and I'm the director or whatever. You know, I think it just depends on your personality. Some people that works for them. For me, it didn't work. I just felt like being among the people I got to know them. It's amazing what they start talking to you about when you're in those kind of situations. So that's really, I agree. I think that's just, for me, that's just who I am.
See, I can't, it's so difficult for me because I ask too many questions and they hate it when they see me when they call and say, I need some help and we're strapped and I show up, they're like, oh no, she's here. Well, they all know me. So I come in and I say, well, why do you do it this way? Or, you know, because I am always analytically thinking about efficiency. I am always analytically thinking about, is that the best way to do something? So I ask questions and I do listen, which is a part of your servant leadership. But they always know that there's a reason I'm asking the question. So it's a little bit more difficult for me to be incognito, but I'm trying to serve them. I think but
Incognito and Amanda don't go together.
They don't see it. I think it's just a combination of that servant leadership and that kind of authoritative leadership. And I think it's okay for people to toggle back and forth and to have aspects of both. You know, it's like one of those personality tests, I think, that, you know, you lean into this type, but you also have characteristics of this, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And depending on the situation, like you said, too, I mean, I would be the same way. Trust me, I was soaking it all in and being like, why are they doing that? And how come they're taking so long to do that? But then I would just talk to the manager afterwards. You know, I mean, trust me, that was happening, but I just didn't make it known. So, yeah.
So
you're more subtle than I.
So speaking of characteristics, you gave us 10 different characteristics of being a servant leader, and I'm just going to go through them real quick, and I want you guys both to tell me which are your favorites. Okay. All right. So we have listening, we have empathy, we have healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, had a hard time saying that one, foresight, stewardship, commitment to growth of people, and lastly, building community. So which one of those stand out to you most, Sue?
Me first?
Yeah.
Ooh, I picked, I forget, so I had to write it down, actually.
You wrote the article.
I wrote perception and empathy. I think both. I think just the first time I had to talk to someone and discipline them, I started crying. And it was not like, here I am trying to discipline them. And I was just becoming a little too sympathetic. So then I was like, okay, you need to be more empathetic. So I kind of quickly realized the difference between that. So I think
write that down. That was so smart. That was so smart. Write that down.
Marlon knows. I mean, I was called the Terminator. I mean, that was my job in Pasco, was to discipline people and work through that process. So that's not fun and that's not easy. So
it's not really a personality either, because I mean, you're a lover, not a Terminator.
Exactly. See, I'm very empathetic. So that's why I think I tend to be that person. I mean, I've let people go and they were thanking me sometimes. So I mean, I just have to talk. I just talk to them different, you know. And then perception, I think, kind of like what Amanda was saying, is just being aware of everything is really important. You definitely have to kind of see what everybody's doing and see what's happening in the kitchen. I think we become, especially our managers, become these little boxes sometimes, and they don't always see big picture because they're just in their moment, in their day, blah, 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 blah. But when you come in as an outsider, you just see so much more. And I would literally take people's hand and be like, come here for a second, what do you see? Do you see what I see? And sometimes they just need that, need someone to kind of show them that. So I think that's important.
All right, Amanda, your turn.
You're up.
Do I need to go through them again?
No, I got this. I'm gonna go with persuasion, and I'm attracted to that one because what did you think I was gonna pick that one?
No, I was gonna say persuasion because all right. So let's be real. Like between you and I, Amanda is like the brains of the operation, right? She's a thinker. She's a planner. She's super analytical. Like me, like I'm just living
So
out in the
many
clouds.
whiteboards.
I
So
get this.
many.
I get crazy ideas. I go to Amanda and I ask if she thinks it'll work or not. A lot of times she says yes, but sometimes she says no. Sometimes she has to sit on it, right? But I love when I plant a seed in her head and then she says no. And then she'll come back like 2 months later, and then she'll think that she had the idea. I'm like, oh, remember I told you about this then? I was persuasive.
You were persuasive, yes.
And for him, it's more like Inception.
Yeah.
But he has this ability to persuade me to do crazy things. And then
like served.
Yeah. So we have he works in a faith mindset and I work in a fear landscape. So it is serious. Like it is that I think that's the relationship that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a how and he's a what if.
Sure.
But like persuasion to me, it is such a powerful tool and it eludes me. And that's why I'm so attracted to it because it's difficult for me because I want to lay out all the facts and say that's why we're doing this because it makes sense. And then I had a staff member say, "Well, it doesn't because of this." And I said, "That's ridiculous." Like I couldn't grasp the fact that with these facts that this person didn't equal this. So I think that's something I need to work on, but no, I don't think it's something I need to work on.
I don't know.
I don't think it's something that's ever going to be a part of my skill set, but I admire it greatly in others.
Very nice.
So I think for me, I'm gonna go. It's difficult. I have probably like 3 or 4 of them that I would like to talk about. But listening is, I think, one of my stronger characteristics. Mm-hmm. And I think that's partly because I don't like to talk. Like contrary to what some people think, I would much rather not talk and I would just listen. But then I understood that, there's a reason for me not wanting to talk is because I should listen more. So I always try to have a, open mind, open ear for whenever anybody wants to talk. I take direction really well. Like as a leader, I've learned to listen to the people on my team because I'm not always right. And Amanda, Mike, Bree, Melissa, Matt, the entire team, they're happy to tell me when I'm not right. So I think definitely listening and foresight too. Foresight's fun for me. I always say I live in the future so you can thrive in the present. And that's where I lean towards. And that's why I need someone like Amanda who is here in the present. I can kind of like, what's your job title, Amanda?
Marlin's Wrangler.
Yeah, he has to wrangle me because it's almost like I'm a fish, like I'm a marlin, and I'm like way out in the ocean. She just has to reel me in sometimes because I like to live.
This is a great analogy. I like it.
Yeah. And also building community. Like for me, that's building culture. Like company culture is very important to me. It's probably our most important. I don't know, like as a company, that's number one thing for me is making sure that I'm always bringing people into the family that can help build and support and maintain and help that culture thrive. So those are my top 3, I guess.
So it's just a great article.
Thank you.
A lot of good things in there, things to admire about other people, things to, recognize in your own self. And I think that it really kind of breaks down that servant leadership into pieces that I really can understand. So great job.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for writing this. We would love to have you come back and contribute another article if you're ever interested.
Of course.
This is definitely one of those articles that I feel like every leader needs to read, or every upcoming leader needs to read.
I appreciate it.
So thank you so much for submitting this to us, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Stay warm.
So cool.